So we're going to be talking about the dark side of living in Germany today. Welcome to my channel. My name is Mallory, an American military wife living in Germany. Almost every week I am getting on here to share with you guys what it's like living overseas with the military. And this week, as you see from the title, I am sharing something that you maybe are like, whoa, what kind of dark secrets are you going to be revealing to us about Germany? No guys, it is not anything juicy, but it simply is about the harder aspects of overseas living. I don't feel like this is talked about enough, okay? And I'm also recording this being jet lagged, so if I'm a little more snarky than usual, that's why. All right, before we talk about why I want to talk about this, make sure to hit this red subscribe button below if you are not subscribed yet, as most viewers are not, and give this video a thumbs up if you like this and can maybe even sympathize with what I'm going to talk about, or empathize. Is that, yeah, empathize, sympathize, whatever. I know, they're two different things, I know. Why do I want to talk about this dark side, the not so great parts of living overseas with the military? I want to talk about it because it seems almost taboo to talk about it. I have not touched on this before because, first of all, people just don't like to hear other people complaining about things, especially when they have such an amazing opportunity as we have to live in a foreign country for a fair amount of time. But I've also not shared because I don't want to come off as ungrateful. So many military families would jump at the opportunity to get stationed in Europe. And I was one of those people when my husband said, hey, I've got orders for Wiesbaden, and we can say yes or no. And I'm like, yeah, we're going to say yes, and there was no question in my mind. It was a dream come true. So I understand that so many people want to jump at it. And so I don't want to come off as being ungrateful or that I don't appreciate this experience. I really do. I'm very grateful and I'm very appreciative. But the fact is that this is hard. And I think there's this, I'll link an article below about this kind of bell curve. No, it's not really a bell curve, but it's a curve where you go through the different stages of emotions living overseas. I'm making this video because one, I think it'll be cathartic for myself, but two, I want other spouses to know that it's normal, one, to be homesick, and two, to look forward to coming back to the United States. It is okay, 100% okay, to not be in love with your host nation. Do I have to repeat myself? 100% okay to not be in love with your host nation. I think also I was a little bit naive at first because all of the people that I personally know, all the spouses that I have known that have lived overseas, and especially Germany, a lot of them were so in love with it. They didn't want to leave. They're like looking at me living over here and like, wow, it's so awesome. I just loved it so much. And I know rationally that they had struggles too, but I guess I just expected to be that person who was like, yeah, I never want to leave Germany. I want to extend our time here. And I love this so much. And I'm turning out to not be one of those people. I'm turning out to be one of those people that I appreciate my time here, but I am looking forward to when we live back in the US. So let's bring awareness to this. I think it makes it harder to deal with the hard parts when you don't acknowledge that they exist. And again, this is all from my personal experience, so everyone's going to have a little bit of a different experience, and some people, like I said, may be totally in love with the culture and the country and don't want to leave, and that's totally fine. Let's talk about the hardest parts for me about living overseas. And what encompasses this whole thing is the isolation factor. Totally did not see that coming. So for one, bases overseas are generally smaller than the bases in the United States. Everybody knows everybody, as they say, not literally, but it's just a smaller community. You're more likely to run into the same people over and over again. shopping at the commissary, whatever. The small community can be a good thing and can be a bad thing. If you find your tribe that is like your tribe, that can be really great because it's like a family. But for me personally, I have not found my tribe here, and I don't know if I ever will. And I'm just kind of doing my own thing. And that has its pros and cons, and that's a topic for another video. But I think for me, it was more difficult than I anticipated coming over here and being isolated, because I came from a very tight-knit community. For the 2 years leading up to coming to Germany, I was in nursing school. And if you are a nurse, you will understand that nursing school is, you become like a family with your cohort. You are going through this shared difficult experience, and that just really bonds people together. And I came from that feeling like I was just part of this common thing, this tribe mentality, to being totally isolated away from family and friends in a foreign country. I've also dealt with higher levels of anxiety and other mental health stuff, which I haven't talked about at all, I don't think, here on YouTube, and you know, maybe one day I will. But I don't know, probably the isolation has played into that heightened anxiety, and anxiety makes it hard to function normally sometimes. It just does. If you have anxiety or depression or any type of mental health problem, you know what I'm talking about. So another hard aspect of overseas living is being so far away from family. Mark and I just made our first trip back to the US for Thanksgiving last week, and oh man, I don't know if it was more helpful or hurtful. No, I'm very glad that we went. It was so nourishing to my heart and much needed. But at the same time, I'm very homesick now. And Wisconsin, which is where we visited, isn't even my home. My home is Texas. My husband's from Wisconsin. And so I got to see my brother who lives up there now, but I didn't get to see any of my family, but I still feel homesick for the US. And I also miss that family unit. Like, we stayed with my husband's parents, and they have this tiny house like built in the 1940s. And as you know, there's annoying aspects to that, having to share one bathroom and all of this, you know, tight space. But at the same time, I loved it. Like, I grew up in a house full of siblings and my parents, and I just, you know, it's lonely and it's too quiet when it's just you and your husband, no kids, and a dog. Referring also to the family thing, it's also harder trying to coordinate communicating back home. My mom and I are very, very close. We're like best friends, and when I was back in the States, we would talk like almost every day, like sometimes every day, definitely texting every day. We pretty much text or message each other every day here, but it's like sometimes we're texting each other when the other is sleeping, you can't get a quick response. And I feel lucky if we talk once a week, and sometimes we go more than a week. And some people might be like, that's, you know, what are you complaining about? I'm not complaining, but I'm just saying it's different than what I was used to. Also, visiting family, going overseas is quite a production and also a strain on the wallet. Also, jet lag stinks. Like I said, I'm still dealing with it right now, so excuse the snark. And then finally, another thing that I think contributes to isolation overseas is not having a job that fits your specialty. Like I said, I'm an RN, but I've never had an RN job. I'm very grateful to have my job with VIP Kid teaching English. I'll have a link below for that. Well, I'm very grateful for that because it does allow us to pay off debt and to have a little bit of a larger budget. I miss being a nurse. I miss doing nursing things. You know, I miss doing the IVs and giving medications and interacting with patients, which was my favorite part, just connecting with patients as a nursing student. I miss that a lot. Like lately, I've been thinking more about nursing and just missing it more and looking forward to the day when we go back to the US and I can get my first nursing job. Another thing that is hard about overseas living is finding things that become annoyances. It's kind of like the honeymoon phase, like when you first get married and you're like in the honeymoon phase and everything is totally cute and lovey-dovey, and the annoying things that your spouse does is just like cute, and then after a while it becomes not cute anymore. I think we all can relate to that. It's the same thing with moving to a foreign country. Things are hard at first, but they're not bothersome. And then, like I said, go read that article. I think I'm in the different and stupid phase right now. I don't think that things in Germany are stupid, but there are definitely things that annoy me, like the emergency sirens. Yeah, it's like fingers on a chalkboard now. All right, so let's conclude with how to deal with the dark side of living in Germany, if you want to call it that. The first thing is to acknowledge it. If you don't acknowledge there's a problem, if you're in denial, you're never going to fix it. Don't pretend that everything is peachy and preaching to the choir and that you love everything about your host nation. Like I said, it's okay to not be in love. Honestly, I don't want to assimilate into German culture. Let's let that sink in for a minute. I don't want to assimilate. I'm not here to assimilate. I am here to experience the culture, but I am an American and I will be going back to America, and I have no desire to give up being an American. And I think right now is a really good opportunity to acknowledge the people that move from their home country to another country that they call their new home. I can only imagine how hard that is. I mean, you have to assimilate, you have to learn a language, there's all these things. And then I'm sure it takes years to do that, and it's hard. And so I want to acknowledge you guys and you know, give you props for that, because it's something that I just would never want to do. Another way to combat that isolation and the harder parts of living over here is to make connections. Again, preaching to the choir, even if it's just you find one or two friends that you can be really close with, that will help with having a shared experience overseas. The third way is to stay connected as much as possible to back home, family and friends. Maybe have like a care package exchange where you send them like Germany stuff because that's a novelty to them, and then they send you American stuff that you miss. But yeah, just stay connected, figure out a schedule where you can talk with your family. That's so, so important. And finally, like I said earlier, acknowledge the problem, but don't wallow in the negative feelings. I'm not talking about like if you have a mental illness, like if you have anxiety or depression, like you can't just snap out of it and tell yourself stop it. I totally understand that. But try not to focus on the things that you don't like or that annoy you, or that, you know, don't wallow in it, and just try to focus more on the things that you like, and look forward to the day when you're back in the United States. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I have totally been doing that recently, like thinking about when I get a nurse job. And I know the grass is not always greener on the other side, but when you miss home, it's just something comforting. Remember that overseas living for us military spouses is not forever. And you do not have to jump. Some will jump at the opportunity to extend their time, like for another 3 years. But if that's not you, it is totally okay. I know that if my husband gets the offer, like, hey, you can extend your time and we have an option to choose it or not, my vote is gonna be no. And I'm pretty sure that my husband's is gonna be no too. So I am totally okay with being here 3 or less years. And that's just me. Other people will feel differently, and that's totally fine. And if you feel the way I feel, it doesn't mean you're any less grateful. It doesn't mean you're being ethnocentric. It doesn't mean that you hate Germany. It means that you appreciate your time here and you're gonna take advantage of stuff, but you really love living in the US. Totally fine. Okay, you guys, let me know in the comments if you can relate to this. Even if you're not an American, like maybe you're a German in like another country or whatever, let me know if you can relate to these feelings. And if you're a spouse coming, I hope I'm not scaring you. You may very well may be the type of person that absolutely loves it here and it'll be really hard to leave. But you might be the person that is like, yep, I'm ready to go, and I'll miss certain aspects, but I'm not gonna be pining for Germany. So leave your comments below. I would like to hear what you guys think. Again, make sure to hit subscribe, and I will talk to you guys soon in another video. Bye guys.